Good afternoon. Welcome everyone and my colleagues and our distinguished witnesses to the Subcommittee on the Asia and Pacific hearing. The ranking member, Mr. Vega, is not able to be here today because he is accompanying the body of a soldier who was killed in Afghanistan back to American Samoa, Mr. Vega's district. Our thoughts and prayers are certainly with the family of First Lieutenant Jason Asatoma Tongi, and Mr. Berra will be sitting in here and replacing Mr. Vega here this afternoon, and he and I will be making opening statements now, and other members, as they arrive, will be recognized for 1 minute to make a statement if they should wish to do so. We find ourselves today at an extraordinarily unusual time in history, one in which political changes are taking shape in nearly every corner of the world. As we look across the Indian Ocean, the beacon of hope and change in Asia, it seemed 2 years ago, was the relatively unknown, isolated country we call Burma, or Myanmar, but we prefer Burma. Today, nearly everyone knows about this nation in some way and has heard of democracy activist Aung San Suu Kyi, who sacrificed years of her life to improve her country's plight. In 2011, she testified via video before this subcommittee, expressing her resounding hope of change for her people. 2 years later, her wish has not yet become reality. The Burma we see today is at first glance much different than the one we knew only a few years ago. Businesses around the globe have rushed in, seeking a stake in Burma's economy and its untouched natural resources. Sanctions were lifted. Investors and tourists are moving across its borders. Some have called Burma the last Wild West of Asia. Named as one of the top travel destinations of the year due to its white beaches and serene Buddhist architecture and pristine beauty, I'm unfortunately not so sure how long that title will last. Countries around the world felt that they could now cross one more dictatorship off their list. And while Burma's sudden and unexpected democratic changes, which opened it to the world, was indeed incredible, we are unfortunately realizing that all this hype may have been premature. Those rose-colored glasses made the situation look better than it probably truly was underneath. The new motto for reforms in Burma, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, at least that's what the Obama administration is using, which is in considerable contrast to its overly optimistic depiction of reforms only a year ago. After 2 years of symbolic visits and appointments and grand gestures and ceremonial photo ops, the tone is finally mellowing as the international community realizes Burma's future is filled with challenges. The situation there is extremely fragile. All of the reforms to date could be reversed, unfortunately, with very little effort. Just a few days ago, Aung San Suu Kyi warned the U.S. that, quote, now it is more important than ever to look at the situation in Burma very objectively and not to be over-optimistic and recognize that Burma is not yet a democracy until its constitution is changed, unquote. She also made it clear that legal challenges are essential to end the ethnic conflicts, including attacks led by Burmese government forces against the Kachin community. The world needs to take note. The escalation of human rights abuses committed by the Burmese military and the civil unrest between Burma's Buddhist majority and Muslim minorities is threatening the progression of future political reforms in Burma. The effects of the surging anti-Muslim movement and ensuing violence has already been staggering. Over 250,000 people have been displaced, over 10,000 homes destroyed, and nearly 300 people killed. Evidence shows the Burmese military perpetrated some of these attacks directly. In other situations, the military and police just stood by and watched the violence unfold without taking appropriate action. A humanitarian crisis is unfolding before our very eyes. What's more, nearly 200 political prisoners remain behind bars. And this does not include the nearly 1,000 Rohingya and 200 Kachin prisoners of conscience who have been arrested and detained over the past year for their religion or ethnicity. This is unacceptable. These are actions repressive regimes take and use to intimidate their own people. how the Obama administration reacted to the blatant human rights violations and unfulfilled promises. They've offered more rewards and deals and concessions. Let's take a quick look. The administration lifted investment sanctions, lifted import bans, allowed Burma's military to observe Cobra Gold, the largest military exercise in the world, lifted visa bans on top Burmese politicians, hosted President Thein Sein at the White House in Maine, signed a trade and investment framework agreement, began the process of admitting Burma into the Generalized System of Preferences program. And most recently, the administration initiated military-to-military engagement with Burma, which comes far too soon in light of the military's strong influence in Burma and continuation of human rights abuses against ethnic minorities. Without established benchmarks, this step, in my view, is hasty and poses a risk of failure for the United States' entire engagement strategy with respect to Burma. It's clear that the U.S. is committed to helping Burma succeed, but why is it the only thing this administration is doing is giving and then giving more? The engagement process needs to slow down, I believe, until it becomes apparent that the Burmese regime intends to truly reform. I believe the administration needs to reassess its strategy and take a step back because Burma has not yet demonstrated that it is truly committed to reforming. Without a clear roadmap, it's unclear whether future reforms in Burma will be consistent with goals established under U.S. laws. I look forward to hearing from our distinguished witnesses today about their assessment of the political environment in Burma, the growing human rights abuses among ethnic groups, and the U.S. engagement strategy with Burma. And now I'd like to turn to the ranking member here this afternoon, Mr. Barrett, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman.